Now, something that I've realized in working with my church and just working with a lot of organizations is that if we're going to grow our church, if we're going to grow our organizations, leaders, we have to be willing to take risk. And yet risks don't come natural for me, and I'm sure they may not come natural for you, taking these risks. Most of us operate in what I call recovery mode, right? We're just trying to recover as opposed to taking risks. But leaders, I want to kind of show you what this actually looks like, being in risk mode. So all of us, what we're trying to do, all of us, is we are trying to what we call sustain performance, right? We come into our organization, we come into our church, it's operating a certain way, and we're trying to sustain performance. We're trying to sustain the programs, we're trying to sustain the ministries, we're trying to sustain the operations, and we're trying to sustain performance. And this is a good thing. But inevitably what happens, finances change, people leave, a coronavirus hits, there's social unrest, life happens, and all of us in our organizations, we experience what we call decline. And when decline comes, what we always go into then is what I say, we go into recovery mode. How do we get out of this decline? How do we recover from where we currently are? And the way that we look at it is, well, let's come up with some solutions. Let's figure out, let's look what other people are doing. Let's look at some best practices. Let's look at what's working for the church down the street. Let's look what's working for the organization down the street. Let me go to some conferences and some workshops. Like, we do all of these things because we're trying to get back to sustained performance. But what I want to suggest is that if you are operating in recovery mode, if you are solution oriented, then you are falling into a trap. And my leaders out there, I don't want you to fall into this trap. This is not where you want to be. What you want to be is, yes, you want to experience performance, that is correct. But rather than waiting for the decline and then trying to recover from the decline, you want to constantly be pushing what I call, and you know this term, innovation, right? This is where it's at. You want to constantly be pushing innovation. And what innovation does is innovation raises performance. So rather than trying to be in recovery mode where we are trying to recover performance, we want to be in innovation mode where we are raising performance. The challenge with innovation, though, is that innovation inherently requires risk. You have to be willing to take some risk. You have to be willing to step out there. You have to be willing to try some things. You have to be willing to fail. If you're going to take risk, you have to be willing to fail. But this is the way forward in the future, my leaders, that if you want to lead your organization into the future, if you want to make a dynamic impact in your community, in your city, in your world, if you want to make a difference, you have to not be in recovery mode. You have to be in risk mode. You have to be looking to how can we raise performance? How can we try some things? Now, ultimately, innovation, it's a culture issue because so many organizations, they don't lean into innovation because they fall back into tradition, they fall back into the way that they are accustomed to doing things. But if you're going to move your organization forward, you have to begin to shift the culture and move into innovation mode by taking risks. You can do it. I've experienced it. It's possible. You just got to be willing to take those risks.